Hi everyone, this is Donna. Welcome to the Whimsy Stamps channel. I'm sharing today a fun alcohol ink background using the newly released Create a Scene Mountain Rubber Cling stamp set. Now I've already cut apart my stamp and I have it stored in a stamp pocket, but there is a product reveal video sharing more information about this stamp, and I will link that to the info card up above. I went through my container of alcohol inks and I pulled out some that I thought would be fun to create a Northern Lights background. And I simply just Googled on my phone Northern Lights and I pulled out the photos. And then here I'm just kind of scanning through some of the ideas to get kind of a visual of what I want to create. I am going to be bringing in some alcohol blending solution and 91% isopropyl alcohol to help me move some of that ink around. And then finally, I have the alcohol ink Yupo paper. This is the heavyweight cardstock. I like this one better, especially when I'm doing heat embossing on my background. It does minimize the warping of the paper quite a bit. Now normally I don't mind getting my fingers all inky, but it is back to school week, so I just grabbed some gloves to protect my fingers. Here I've started with a layer of alcohol ink in Stream. I've just kind of added it to my paper. I've added some alcohol ink or blending solution to move that around. And then I've grabbed this foam or felt rather applicator that I'm just kind of working that ink into my paper. I've added a little bit of indigo to kind of bring out that nighttime sky, and I'm moving that around a little bit with some alcohol and a dropper, and then just using my brush I'm just kind of trying to get rid of those harsh lines. Now the beauty of alcohol inks is no two backgrounds will ever turn out the same. And there's really no wrong or right way once you figure out what is working for you. You just kind of start adding inks and playing around with it until you get the end result you want. And as I found out in my case, the look I really wanted was this swipey look, and it was most easily achieved with using my felt tool. I've added a little bit of limeade alcohol ink to the background to just brighten it up a little bit, and then I figured out that a lot of this card was trial and error, and I do like the end result, but I think next time I make a card like this, I would bring in a little more of the pops of color. So at this point my background is pretty muted, and here I'm going to grab in some pinks and purples to try to brighten it. I should have added a little bit of green to help in brightening the background, but I didn't. And just swiping it across, I'm getting that Northern Lights kind of look that I'm going for. And then the second layer I do with the swiping motion, I bring in a little more of that raspberry alcohol ink to really kind of help and brighten out the background. Once I have my background completed, I do leave it off to the side to dry just a little bit before I begin stamping out my images. I am using my Misty to help me stamp out my images, and you can see I've already started stamping out the tree outline. This first stamp I did use StazOn black ink, but I decided to go ahead and stamp out the images with VersaFine ink, and then heat set that with black embossing powder. Anytime you are wanting to stamp VersaFine ink onto a slick surface like Yupo paper, it's best to heat set it or add embossing powder and then heat set that. Now I tried stamping out my image onto something like a piece of acetate to help me line up the stamping, but honestly, in the end, this was way harder, and simply eyeballing it worked much better for me. The only recommendation I have for you is if you do something like this and you're using a MISTI, use your top and bottom grid lines and kind of align your paper inside of those and try to stay in that frame, but do shift your paper left and right like I'm doing to achieve my stamping. It's not perfectly straight, but this is a line of trees and they're not meant to be perfect. Also, this whole card was a lot of trial and error, and now I know what to do next time I try to create something like this. And hopefully you've learned a new tip or two with me and watching my struggles. So I'll go ahead and add some black embossing powder onto my background. And I would recommend that you stamp everything out that you're going to heat emboss, and then heat emboss or heat the entire panel at once. I'm reaching here for a sentiment from the Happy Sky Clear stamp set, and I'm kind of bummed that I didn't white heat emboss the sentiment to really make it pop off the background, but it's okay. I do go ahead and stamp out the sentiment onto a piece of black cardstock and then white heat emboss it and add it to my background. Now here I'm showing you how I dried this panel. I would let the heat gun heat up pretty well, and then just a few swipes across the panel to start drying or melting that embossing powder. It did take several minutes, but I had very little minimal warping on my background. To make my snowy banks, I've decided to try to use some white alcohol ink to lighten up the background. I am using a paintbrush and then just cleaning it off into some alcohol that I have off to the side. But I kind of realized that it's easier just to tip my panel up and then dip my brush into the alcohol ink that I have, or I'm sorry, just regular alcohol in that cup. And then I just start removing some of that color off. Now I don't get the entire background white, but this is meant to be a nighttime scene, so I'm okay with the color that I do achieve. At this point, my background is complete. I do like to seal in my alcohol ink backgrounds to kind of give them a glossy look and just to protect the surface. I'm using the Distressed Microglaze and a foam applicator tool. I simply dip the tool inside the glaze, tap off any excess, and then just start lightly buffing out the background. Then I'll let it dry for a few minutes and then just wipe away any excess. So that will do it for my card today. I hope you learned something new along the way. I know I sure did. Anyway, it has been an absolute dream of mine to get out somewhere and see the northern lights, and maybe one day I will fulfill that, but until then I can just enjoy my alcohol ink northern light backgrounds, which I do plan to create more in the future. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and a comment down below. Also, if you're new, consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell to be notified the next time a new video is uploaded. We do post at least 3 times a week here on the Whimsy Stamps channel, so there is always new content featuring new products, as well as some of the older release products with a variety of techniques. That will do it for me today. As always, thank you so much for stopping by, and I will see you another time.